Okay, here's problem number 3. It says Heather left Castell's house driving south 3 hours before Crystal. Crystal drove in the opposite direction 40 miles per hour faster than Heather for 1 hour, after which time they were 240 miles apart. Find Heather's speed. Okay, who are we dealing with? Heather and Crystal. By the way, these help you keep things straight. And I see some of you are so busy with this, you don't have time to put this here. And when you do that, you're going to start making some mistakes because you're going to put the wrong numbers with the wrong one because there's nothing to tell you which one. It says, what do we know about speed? Well, what do we know about hours? Heather left 3 hours before Crystal. So who drove the 3 hours? Heather did. Heather drove for 3 hours. Crystal drove none of those 3 hours, right? Right? Okay, and what else do we know about time? Crystal drove in the opposite direction faster than Heather for 1 hour. How long did Crystal drive?
1 hour.
She drove 1 hour. Crystal did. And what did Heather do? She drove the same hour. When the second person starts, they both drive that time, right? So when Crystal starts and drives for an hour, Heather is still driving, right? So they both drive the same here. This one is the same. Okay? So, how long did Heather drive altogether? 3 and 1. Heather drove 4. And Crystal drove that one, nothing for this one. So there's their times. Now we need speed. What do we know about speed? Crystal did what?
Crystal did 40.
40 faster. So who went faster? Crystal. So who went slower? Heather. So Heather's going to be what? Heather is going to be the X. Now this is what you have to get down. Because we do this. How many times have we done this now this week? Several. And that's what you have to now. So you have to learn what to do. So after a while you start doing the same thing. Because that's what it says. Who's faster? Crystal. So Heather is slower. So we're going to put X in for Heather. So how fast is Crystal going? She's going the same speed as Heather, right? And she's going 40 more than Heather, right? So we have to take Heather's speed and add 40 to it. And that's our setup. This is how we set them up. Okay, what goes here? This one times this one. I still saw as I walked around this morning, I saw people had nothing but numbers in here. You need the problem. You need this one times this one for this box. That's 4x. You need this one times this one. Well, what's 1 times this? This, right? It doesn't change, so it's x plus 4, 40. Do they tell us anything else? Yes. They're 240 kilometers apart, right? Where does the 240 go? It goes on its distance, but it's the total that goes down here. All right, as soon as you put this down here, what does that tell you about an equation? What equation are we going to use? How do I get 240? I add this one and this one. One person started here, went this way. One person started here, went this way. And the two distances together equal the total because they went in opposite directions. Right? So whenever you have the total, your equation is going to be the first one plus the second one is equal to the total. And now we combine like terms. What are like terms? Those two. What's 4x and 1x? But here's what I do to save time. I got 5x. What am I going to do with the 40? It's a plus 40, right? I have to get rid of it. How do I get rid of it? I subtract 40 from both sides. They cancel. So now all I have left on this side is the 5x. When I subtract here, I get 200 divided by 5. And x equals 40. So that's x. Where does this 40 go? It goes where the box with x is 40. That's x. So this is 40. All right, so what's this one? X is 40, right? Plus another 40 is 80. What goes in here? 40 times 4. Forget the x's. You multiply this number times this number. 160. And what goes in this box? This number times this number, right? 1 times 80 is 80. Do these two add up to this one?
Yeah.
All right, so we should be right. So what's the actual question asked for? What was Heather's speed?
40.
Heather, speed is 40. And we're done.
Mostly on these problems, the X is already here.
Not all the time.
Well, on these, yeah, kind of problem.
No, not kind of all. You find X the answer every time?
Not every time, but no.
Well, okay, right. So what are you going to do? Guess? I'm giving you a way to easily, here's what happens. If you do this, then you read the question, all you do is pick out whichever answer you want. And if you say, well, I only do that some of the time, because I'm going to save myself time. Yes, and you're also going to get more problems wrong. Because what you're going to start doing is circling all the X's. And you're going to finish the problem. I say it happens all the time. If your goal is to see how fast you can get this done, not worry about how to do it, then you're going to end up getting problems wrong because you're in such a rush to get done that you can't take an extra 20 or 30 seconds. The more you do this up here, the faster you get at it. And it shouldn't take you very long at all. Then you read the question, answer the question, and you're done. Question on this problem? Okay, number 5. A cattle train left Washington, traveling north 16 hours before diesel train. So what do we have? Cattle and diesel. The cattle train left Washington traveling 16 hours before the diesel. So who traveled the 16 hours? The cattle did. Yeah, we got space. We'll put 16 out here and put nothing here, okay? I don't want X. Okay. And then what? The diesel train traveled in the opposite direction, going 32 miles per hour slower than the cattle train for 3 hours. Who traveled the 3 hours?
Diesel.
Both of them.
Yeah,
The diesel was the one that started second, right? So they both traveled, the diesel travels 3 hours, and the cattle also. So they both traveled 3 hours. So, how long did the cattle train travel? 3 and 16, right? So they traveled 19. How long did the diesel train travel? Just the 3. Right? Now you have to realize they give you 2 times. The first time is for the train, the item that started first. That's it. The second time is for both of them. They both traveled the second time. They both traveled 3. Only the cattle train traveled the first 16. And then the diesel started for 3 hours. Okay? Now, what does the speed say? The diesel train traveled in the opposite direction, traveling 32 miles per hour slower than the cattle train. Who's going slower? The diesel. So who's going faster? Okay, so the diesel's going slower, so what do I put in for diesel? How fast was the diesel train going? X. The slower train is X. How much faster was the faster train going? What do I do with the 32? I add it to the slow train, right? So it's X plus 32. Now, you say, but it said slower. Yeah, but I didn't do it there. I didn't do the problem the way it said it. I said which one was going slowest. This one, right? So that's X. And one of them was going 32 slower, so the other one was going 32 faster, right? I weigh 50 pounds more than you do. So that's a plus 50, right? Why are you laughing? I could also say you weigh 50 pounds less than I weigh. Did I say anything different? The words are different, but what I meant is exactly the same, right? So which way do I write that? Do I write it x minus 50 or x plus 50? Yeah, either way, it depends on which one I make x. If I make me x, I have to subtract to get you, right? But if I make you x, I have to add to get me. I can do it either way. Does that make sense? So what I do is, it's easy to tell which one's slower. Put the x with the slower, and then add the miles to the faster one. I'm adding 32 to this one because this is slower, this is faster. And I'm ignoring the fact that it said it was slower in the problem. I'm using it, but if I always do the slowest one, I will always add to get the faster one. Right? Yeah. If you put the x here, then this is the faster one, right? So what do you have to do to get the slower one? You got to subtract 32. So then you'd have x minus 32 down here. And they both work. It really doesn't matter which way you do it. You just have to make sure you do them right, and that's the biggest problem. That's why I kind of like the idea of saying, okay, I got two trains, and I don't care whether they say it's faster by 32 or slower. I say, which train is going slowest? Well, when I read the problem, I can tell, right? Put the x with the slower one, and then you always add the number to get the faster one. And that way I'm doing it the same. But it doesn't really matter. They both work as long as you're doing them right. Okay, now let's finish the problem. What do? What goes in these boxes? First one is 19 times x plus 32. And the bottom box is 3x. And am I missing anything? Is there anything else in the problem? How far apart are they? 1686. And you might read the problem, put that in right away so you don't forget it. Because you have to have it. Okay? If you have the total distance, what's your equation? 19 times x plus 32 plus 3x equals 1686. And then you solve for x. You need to understand this and practice this to get your times. These numbers over here show me what the times are. And then I've got faster and slower here. Then I multiply and set your equation. Okay? Number 6. Julio left home driving north 1 hour before Mark. So what do we have? Julio and Mark. Who left first? How long did he travel? He traveled for an hour. That's 1. And Mark is nothing, right? Now I'm afraid to put x here because I'm afraid we're going to mix the x to the x's over here. That's why I don't put x in. This is 0, right? Mark drove for an hour. Julio drove for an hour. Mark drove 0. What else does it say about the time? Mark drove for 3 hours, right? Right? What did Julio do? He also drove for the 3 hours, right? So they both have 3 hours. When Mark drove, he drove for 3 hours. Julio was driving. Julio drove for an hour before Mark started. This is what we have for time. How long did Julio drive for? And Mark? So there's my times. Okay. Now, they threw you for a loop here. What's else? Mark drove in the opposite direction, going 0 miles per hour slower than Julio. What does that mean? They're going the same speed. If I'm driving 0 miles per hour slower than you, how fast am I going? The same speed. So what do you put? You put x for both of them. They're traveling the same speed. One of them is going 0 miles per hour slower than the other one. They're going the same speed. That's what they're trying to get across. Now, that's not the way we say it, but they're trying to get you to think about what the problem says. If somebody is going 0 miles an hour slower or faster than you, what are they doing? They're going the same speed as you. It's the only choice we have, right? And if they're both going the same speed, do we know that speed? No, so it's X. And that's your setup. And you all made it hard. Right? And now you do what? Oh, what do we have? This is 4X. This is 3X. Do we have something else?
Yeah.
210 miles apart? So what's my equation? 4X plus 3X equals 210. And then combine like terms, and all you're going to get is 7X. Divide by 7, X equals 3. And that's really all you have. X, this is 3. This is 3. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 3 is 9. What is 12 and 9? I'm sorry, X equals 30. Okay, sorry. 30. I just get ready to realize that. Since 12 and 9 does not equal 210. Yeah, I got a 0 here and here. So they're 120 and 90. Okay? Okay, number 7. James and Arjun. And what does it say about them? James left the Science Museum, drove at an average speed of 35 miles per hour. What do I do at 35 miles per hour? That's the speed, right? That's how fast he's traveling. So he gets 35. What else do we know? Arjun was driving how fast? 55. So they actually gave us the speed. There's no adjusting. There's the speed. So where's the X going to go? Someplace in here. So what does it say about time? James left Museum. Arjun left 2 hours later. And that's it, right? So Arjun left 2 hours later. So where does the 2 hours go?
No, James had 4 hours.
James left the museum and drove towards the recycling plant at an average speed of 35. Arjun left 2 hours later. So where does who does the 2 hours go with? No, it doesn't.
With James.
Arjun is X, and then James is going to be X.
X plus 2. Yeah.
Stand up. Yeah, hurry up. Hurry up. Come stand next to me. Start walking. Stop. I am leaving 2 hours after he does. Who went for the 2 hours? He did. I'm leaving after 2 hours. I'm starting 2 hours after he started. So he left first. He's the one that did the 2 hours. I did not. Right? So he's got 2. Thank you. He's got 2. I've got nothing. Alejandro and me. And then, how long did we both travel for the second part? This is the first part. What's the second part? Where does it say 2? We used the 2 hours after. Where's the second time? It doesn't say. So what's the second time? We don't know, right? So what is it? It's X. The second part is X. We both traveled X hours, and James traveled 2 hours before. So he's got 2. So the time is X and X plus 2. And we're out of time.